Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to more of my League of Extraordinary Trainers videos. We are actually in the playoff seasons. We made playoffs this season, so that means we get to go up against a lot of different people, including the Golden State Wooloos, who we actually lost to during the weekly battles. So this is my chance for redemption against them. I do remember one thing from those fights. Choice Specs Vaporeon was mainly what destroyed my team last time. I remembered that during prep as well, so I'm making sure that I keep a good hold on Vileplume, making sure that I've got things to kind of take care of the Vaporeon, including a very defensive Walrein, who would be able to wall this thing entirely. At the time of making this video, LAT has already finished the season. If you guys want to know the results of how well I do, you're just gonna have to continue looking out for videos. But with that said, let's go ahead and get started with our quarters final battle. And our opponent Incog has brought the Surfetched, Lycanroc, Vaporeon, Umbreon, Thwacky, and Mr. Mime Galar. So he changed up his team a little bit from when we fought him first. I know I didn't fight Mr. Mime originally, and I think he kept Surfetched away as well. And this was before I switched over to having Pangoro and Cryogon on my team, so Pangoro is going to be new for him as well. I don't think I brought Walrein against him either. But otherwise, I mean, I know he fought Xurkitree and Vileplume. I think I actually brought them both to every single fight I had. It's a little hard not to when Vileplume is such a great defensive Pokemon, especially for my team, and Xurkitree is by and far my heaviest hitter. So it looks like we're starting off with Walrein first. I think we're kind of just waiting to see what he sends out first. If it's the Lycanroc, it's probably for Stealth Rocks. And granted, this Walrein does not is not carrying a Water type move, partially because of the Vaporeon, Water Absorb and all that. So it is Lycanroc first, which Walrein isn't a fan of. So as you guys can kind of see, this is kind of meant to be an actual tank version of Walrein. You guys notice the stockpile, the Aqua Ring, and the body press. So build up my bulk and just start wailing on him. Oh, looks like we decided to chance it and stay in. Now then, my opponent, obviously, he has a weakness to water. He doesn't know that I have a water move yet or not. So that first turn Stone Edge miss probably actually helped me significantly more than it should have. But after seeing Stone Edge, there's no way that Walrein was going to live one without any defensive boosts, and we didn't bother giving that to him because we don't want to tip our hat that that's what Walrein is. We already kind of have with using Body Press, but yeah. Now that he's seen that Body Press is there and is going to KO the Lycanroc, he swapped out. And we swapped out to Pangoro to tank the Stone Edge. Unfortunately, I think my opponent predicted that and swapped to a very good counter for me. So while Surfetch can learn First Impression, using that instead of a fighting move against the Pangoro didn't seem like a great idea for him. So Claydol was probably a pretty safe switch in for this point in time. But I always forget that everything in its mother gets knockoff. So unfortunately Claydol eats that. The good news is that knockoff won't deal nearly as much damage anymore to Claydol. Bad news is Claydol's not getting any more health back. So we're just going to have to kind of see how this goes. Oh, he doesn't bother trying to finish this. And we got Nightcrawler coming in. Umbreon, shiny, my favorite shiny ever. And we've got the Stealth Rocks. Alright, so Stealth Rocks are up. His only form of getting rid of them... No, he has two forms. Although I think during the battle I was only thinking of one, and that was the Surfetched. But Mr. Mime can actually learn Rapid Spin. So, he has two forms. I just wasn't thinking of that at the time. But yeah, Claydol's far too passive to be doing anything with this guy. And it's packing Yawn. That is not great, because it is going to force me to swap, probably. Unless we don't mind Vileplume just taking the sleep, which it looks like we're doing. And he doesn't bother staying in on that, so we're going to aim Toxic at this thing. Who has to take the Stealth Rocks damage, so if it adds Sash, that's no longer useful for it. Alright, we Toxic'd it. And we know this thing learns Brave Bird. I'm remembering this match a bit more now. So now we've got a Vileplume who is asleep. And we're going to try and stick here and waste a couple of turns, I guess, of that sleep. And see how well it tanks that Brave Bird. And it does not. It does take a crap ton of damage, though, at least from that. Because that's Recoil and then Rocky Helmet. So unfortunately, we did lose our Vileplume pretty early on, it looks like. Alright, but now we're sending out Xurkitree. We can't put this thing to sleep because it's poisoned already. But if he bothers to stay in, which he doesn't, we would have gotten a Beast Boost off. But now we're going for Thwaxgiving. This thing is a nightmare for me right now, because anytime it comes in and is able to set up that Grassy Surge, it gets free priority moves. And those priority moves are super effective against what is now my main tank, which is Walrein. The good news is that this thing only gets healing through its Grassy Surge, unless you decide to run Giga Drain on it for some reason. And we're sacking one of our other tanks. Because, I mean, we don't want Xurkitree to take much damage. Xurkitree needs to be in back to be the backup sweeper on this thing. Oh, so we're actually taking the U-turn. And I'm guessing this is probably my physical defensive Claydol, so that would be why it lived. Now, what does he switch to for this guy? Is he going to bring the Umbreon back out? I mean, Umbreon can KO this thing pretty easily with Foul Play if they're running that. Nope. Going with Vaporeon. Vaporeon does have to take Stealth Rocks damage, gets healed a little bit by the Grassy Terrain. Claydol's pretty done here, so if this thing doesn't do much... Yep. I didn't want to do the hard switch just in case it did just in case it decided to do that flip turn like that. So that way I can send a Pokemon in to counter whatever he's got on the field. So he has to choose his Pokemon first before I choose mine. And that's the one thing that I do not like about momentum moves is that if you KO something with it, you're actually putting yourself in a worse position usually. No, I'm guessing he was probably thinking I was going to swap to something else to try and preserve Claydol. Alright, but now he's got Thwacky out. So here's the funny thing. We actually brought Swoop out on the assumption that he was bringing Thwacky. And we even gave him the Grassy Berry for it. which rose his defense sharply. So now Thwacky can't actually do much to him, and even with a knockoff, he isn't going to get any extra damage from that because we've already used our item. And now we're Calm Mind setting up on this thing. So we've got +2 defense, +2 special attack, and +2 special defense. That's going to be a lot of power for stored power. Granted, he still has Umbreon, and Umbreon will just wall that. And then we've also got the Vaporeon to deal with as well. Vaporeon might live stored power. It would depend heavily on its investment. And now, see, we're sitting here debating, do we want to swap out of this thing or not? I think we're also trying to figure out if Energy Ball is going to do more damage than stored power will. Spoiler alert, since I've looked at this heavily with Pangoro's Power Trip, it won't. Stored power will still deal far more damage than Energy Ball will. Especially since we're not grounded. Well, looks like we hit Calm Mind again. We're faster, so we'll get the +4 special defense and +4 special attack now. So now, stored power definitely will KO just about everything else here. And we're flip turning, which Vaporeon's attack stat is not great, and we've got a +2 to our defense. Swoobat may not have a lot of defense to begin with, but that's still more than enough to live that easily. And now we're down to Nightcrawler, who's probably going to try and yawn on the Swoobat, just to kind of force me out of it. But the thing about it is that while Umbreon's on the field, it's not an actual threat to Swoobat. Even Foul Play won't deal that much damage. And we can roost off some of our health before that happens. So really, while Yawn may be slightly detrimental, I think something like Toxic would be even worse. Because the Umbreon itself can't force us out. Alright, Umbreon is back to full health. So we're staying in and using the Energy Ball. But yeah, that didn't do much. And Foul Play actually did a bit more than I would have expected. That's a third of my health right there, so unfortunately with Sleep coming up this next turn, we'd have to wake up the second turn, because we can't wake up on the first turn. And yeah, now he's just going to sit here with Umbreon Foul Playing me, which makes sense. If he had any other kind of attack on there aside from Foul Play, this probably wouldn't work. But most Umbreons carry Foul Play anyways, because it's one of their best attack options, even on Pokemon with as weak of an attack stat as Swoobat. Alright, so we roosted. Roost heals 50% damage, where that Foul Play is hitting us for a third. So we can out-roost those Foul Plays, which is nice. That +2 defense boost that we got earlier is really saving the Swoobat. The funny thing, though, now that I'm thinking about it, is, I mean, obviously he doesn't want to switch Lycanroc into an attack coming from Swoobat, but why didn't he switch it in on the turn that Swoobat was asleep? I would have a theory for this. Obviously it doesn't matter at this point because the battle's already over. But I would be thinking that he only does that because Lycanroc doesn't actually outspeed Swoobat, because he probably made it adamant. And I think, are we finally giving up on the Swoobat? Yeah, we're just debating between how much damage we're dealing. There is one thing, though. Oh. We are, in fact, switching. Alright, Walreign's out. He already knows this thing has body press, and we are wishing. So now he's planning on swapping out. Because he's already at full health. Even if I energy balled him again, I mean, Wish would fully heal him. But I think he's got better Pokemon to give that Wish to. Now the question is what is he going to be trying to swap into this? Because he's already seen body press. He knows it's going to hurt. So that Wish is going to be for whatever comes in. So he doesn't want to switch the Lycanroc in. And he really doesn't want to swap another one of his offensive threats in. Because they'll also probably get pretty close to fainting. Yep. So unfortunately for him, we called his switch and decided to attack. Though we did do Ice Beam instead of Body Press. Reasoning for that, I think, was because we were expecting Thwackey to come in. Just because Thwackey was probably Evilite and could probably tank the Body Press a bit better. So that's why we decided to go with Ice Beam. And Ice Beam is... that Thwackey is exactly the reason why we have Ice Beam. Well, that and the fact that it had far better coverage than a Water move for my team against his. Alright, so now we've got Thwackey out with Grassy Terrain, which is a very unfortunate spot. And we've got no defensive boost whatsoever. But he decided not to stay in with this thing. He didn't want to risk not being able to KO Walrein, I'm guessing. Because he would lose Thwackey in that. Now the question is, what does he swap out to? He was probably also thinking I would swap Walrein out. Alright, so in comes the Mr. Mime, who actually does not have heavy-duty boots. Which is strange, because I don't think anything on his team did have heavy-duty boots. But with all the healing that's going on here, thanks to the Grassy Terrain and the leftovers, we're not really worried about this thing, like, at all. Yep, so it comes in to get rid of the Stealth Rocks, which... honestly, the Stealth Rocks have done most of their job already. And unfortunately for him, Mr. Mime is pretty much walled by Walrein. So now we can just set up on him with Stockpile and make it so that Walrein walls everything else. Walrein the wall. No, I do enjoy this strategy actually very thoroughly after having done this battle. The Aqua Ring, although very strange in my opinion, actually worked well for this. In fact, I think that was an egg move that I bred onto it. Alright, so now we've got our first turn set up again. So, except now we've got +2 defenses versus the Lycanroc. So at this point, Stone Edge would have to crit in order to KO Walrein, probably. Well, no. I know the crit would kill it. I'm not sure if a regular Stone Edge would. Judging by the damage on that, it would be close, but it looks like Stone Edge probably wouldn't KO Walrein from full health. But that doesn't really matter now, because he also didn't crit anyways. So that first turn miss was probably a lifesaver for Walrein. That was a risky play on my part that played out well. Although I think it was probably something that wasn't necessary. Alright, and now we're back to the Umbreon, who also probably can't hurt us at all. I mean, he can put us to sleep, but that's about it. And with Walreign's defenses, it doesn't really matter. Ooh, God, we almost KO'd that thing. Yeah, Umbreon is a premier tank in every sense of the word. Like, even if you decide to go full physical or full special tank, it'll still tank moves from the other side, too. I fight Umbreons a lot, so I'm quite familiar with that. Alright, so we're about to go to sleep, and I am in no condition to swap out Walrein. I don't have anything that I would want to swap out to. So we're going to stay in, let Walrein sleep, because he doesn't have a good Pokemon to take down Walrein with +2 defenses. At least I hope I'm staying in with Walrein. I don't think there's much of a point to swap, but that's hindsight for you. Because we're swapping to Pangoro. Alright, so we gave Pangoro an Assault Vest to kind of help us with the Vaporeon. Because Vaporeon was always going to be a problem. And the only thing he could swap into Pangoro, which he doesn't want to necessarily do, would be the Umbreon. A pure Dark type, while great for blocking Dark type attacks, is going to be absolutely destroyed by his next fighting attack. And thanks to our Assault Vest there, we lived that Dazzling Gleam. So we KO this thing, which could have set up screens on us, which I'm guessing was the main idea. But now he's down that. And he can't clear rocks anymore. Not that I can set them up anyways, but it's just nice to have someone who can set up screens pretty reliably gone. Alright, so now we've got Vaporeon, which, unfortunately, Pangoro is in absolutely no condition to tank anymore, even with Assault Vests. And that's even without Choice Specs, I'm guessing. With Choice Specs, it doesn't stand a chance. And now we just got Flip Turn again. Which, I mean, is fine. Most of his team can't deal with Walrein anymore. I think all he's got left is Thwackey. We haven't KO'd Thwackey yet, have we? Nope. But Thwackey is in no condition to fight Walrein. Granted, I don't really want to keep Walrein in against this thing, but I'm also running out of options to do so. However, we're getting plenty of healing off of this, so Walrein's getting back up in its health. So I think at this point we're just saying, you know what, we have to risk it anyways. And we're going for Grassy Glide right here. Which did not nearly as much as I would be expecting. Probably wasn't choice banded. So we were able to get it off of with Ice Beam. And that leaves us with the two Eons, Umbreon and Vaporeon. Neither of which can really beat Walrein reliably. It would take Toxic from one of them to do it. Although my opponent actually commented a little bit on how this matchup went with concern to the Vaporeon. And I don't think it was a way to finish this, but it definitely would have helped my opponent a lot more than how it did. So Umbreon's now gone, which just leaves the Vaporeon. And considering how much he's kept Vaporeon in the back, it would have been Choice Specs probably in my mind. But still, again, same thing as he brought last time, which would be, well, it wasn't really his downfall, but it did not help him to bring it again. because I had planned for this one. Yep, so now we're just packing Surf, which Walrein resists to all heck. And given the damage, it is definitely choice specs, but we are stockpiling, and now we are healing off with Leftovers and Grassy Surge. Granted, so is Vaporeon, but at some point, Vaporeon is going to be dealing significantly less damage to us. And we're going to be dealing significantly more damage to it. We've got Grassy Terrain for one more turn, so we gotta make sure that we're healing up past what Vaporeon can do. So in comes Aqua Ring. While it didn't necessarily matter throughout the entire battle, it helps Walrein survive the Vaporeon better. So now we've got 3 kinds of healings going on in this one turn for Walrein. Healing back almost all the damage that the Vaporeon did to us. And that's with only +1 special defense. So now time for +2. Alright, so he has no chance of KOing us next turn aside from a crit. Alright, and Leftovers and Aqua Ring both heal up to restore most of the health that we just lost. And now that we're at +2, we're well beyond what Vaporeon can actually deal damage versus what we get back in healing. So going from 87 to 52, yeah, that's only 35 health, which Walrein has been getting that off of Leftovers and Aqua Ring by itself. Oh, not quite. But still, it's relatively insignificant. One more Surf and one more Body Press to end all of this. Alright, so for our quarterfinals, we managed to beat the Golden State Wooloos, which we lost to during the weekly battles. So all in all, a good first performance for the playoffs. And with that, that means we're going to the semifinals. And in the semifinals, we will be fighting the Jersey Blue Kinglers. So I'll be looking forward to that video next. And for those of you that have already forgotten, those were actually our last of the weekly battles. So that was the last video you guys should have seen by now. Well, with that, I will catch you all next time.